Ooh,
Let us go. Might have some
Titans
friends watching today.
go. Yeah?
Maybe.
Oh, sweet.
Let me know if you are. Text me. I'll
Or
shout you
drop it
out.
in the chat.
Or drop it in the chat if you're not scared. Like Eric's mom.
Oh.
Um,
Oh, geez, how many drawing pens have I got? That's good. Oh, hang on. I've got a message
it's
saying OmniverseComics.Guide is live.
yeah, we are. I hope not that you need to. Absolutely not. I hope that you mention the one that I said to you I'm gonna steal from you. And you're
Yeah.
like, no problem.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Do you know what, though? I need to do something before we actually do things.
Yeah.
It's completely from memory, and I haven't actually even flicked through it in about 2 years because I haven't had time to
You,
read it. But I
no
did want to
problem.
include it. I've just said because one of my choices, I read it and went, no, this isn't the storyline this happens in. This isn't the one I wanted. So and I was literally, I found this out at 20 to 10. So I was trying to quickly read through another thing to remind myself of stuff.
I read a whole specific trade that collected maybe about 20 issues or so, give or take.
Yeah.
Um, and I was gonna pick like, one story or a two-parter and then I realized that the whole thing was like one Peter David, right? So it's
Yeah.
all like connected. So I'm like, which part would I want to pick at this point? Because I feel like that will have no context. Like it's a good cap off perhaps, but you really got to read the whole thing. And it was the one time where I'm like, he's a sneaky, he's got a way, man. It's so hard to, we'll talk about it while we
We'll talk
go.
about it when we do it. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Where did I put those? Oh, there. Also, we should probably mention that we've gone over the 1,000 mark subs, so we'll do a thank you.
yes, I'm thinking we should, after our incoming, maybe a summertime speakeasy. I
Oh
got some
yeah, yeah, we could
ideas
do that.
and we can make it like 1,000 subscriber celebration
Okay,
kind of deal.
I had
Yeah.
an idea for a speakeasy as well.
Okay, cool.
Technically,
Cool, cool.
it's two things in one.
Perfect. I did recently, I don't know when he's posting it. I did an appearance on Comic Shenanigans for about 40 minutes for his centennial episode, 1100 or something.
Yeah.
And he had me doing like this word association thing, which was fun. And I'm like, I said, I'm stealing this for a speakeasy. I go, this is good. It's easy content. I go, I like this. This is fun.
Oh, that's cool. We'll give that a shot.
Yeah, no, but I
Did he
want to hear
mind
your
you
idea.
stealing it?
No, not at all.
Actually, it's
We
a night.
give him enough shout outs.
This is true. Say when it goes up though, and we'll run
Yes.
it on the
Yeah.
thing. Oh yeah, sorry. Give me 1 sec. I don't
Okay.
see any names yet, but just give me
Not
1 sec.
yet.
I just need to remind myself.
Do they know we're on tonight? Is there anybody out there? There's nobody there yet, Dave. I'm sure there will be, but we're
Yeah.
good for now.
Okay.
Yeah, nobody's watching yet. We all good. Do they know we're on?
Should do. The alerts come up.
Oh, Omega Bread is here. Hello, strangers. Yes, Omega
Word to the
Bread.
bread.
It should be amazing. How could it not? What I realized with, anyways, I'll save all my anecdotes for when we drop the boom.
Yeah, I was going to say something else as well, and I'm not, because I'll end up either repeating or thinking I've said it and not saying it. Oh, we
Yeah,
got Marvel Man 2. What up, man?
Marvel Man.
Dude.
What's up? What's up?
Marvel Man 901. Are you also DC Man 901?
probably.
on
Is
Instagram.
901 the area code?
Ooh.
Multiple, yes.
Oh, thanks, man. Do you know what? This was one of those ones. Should I say this now?
So he is. Are you DC man, or
I
is
only
that the
found
area
your
code?
Instagram tonight. I don't know how long you've been doing DC Man as well, but like I only found it tonight. And I thought, huh? So yeah,
He is a multiple man
Godfather.
himself.
He is literally a multiple man.
Just waiting for the BC Scrubs to officially drop the boom.
He may or may not make it.
Okay, good to know.
So yeah, we. Hang on. Oh shit! I pressed something I didn't mean to press. Bear with me.
Marvel Man, where are you watching from? Do we know already? Did I ask this before? What's your hometown? Yeah, this is gonna be a fun episode.
I couldn't decide if it was a tribute to Madrox or you were lactating profusely. I know. I will, maybe I will. Thank you.
Born and raised in Sweden. Sorry, we're both talking to people on the live.
Two conversations.
We need a bigger room.
We'll do 2 separate podcasts from next week.
Yeah. Just have a conversation in the live, the big Discord.
Yeah.
Shall we get started? It is a Wednesday. Everything's a little bit off for everybody.
It'll be off.
All right, cool. Let's do it. And we got a mailbag, you said, right? Kick it off with a mailbag.
It's technically a mailbag. It's a callback to a mailbag.
Okay.
Mailbag.
And we have a commercial break.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. Shall I tell you what it is?
Yes.
It's our top 5 Peter David related reading orders.
Nice. I like that. You've got a gift. All right, let's do it. 4, 3, 2, 1, and boom. Welcome back, everybody, to the OmniverseComics.Guide podcast. I am your host, Eric Anthony. This is my pal, Dave. My pal, Dave. How the hell are you, buddy?
Hello, I'm Hal, and also the lyrical gangster. How are you, dude?
I'm feeling like the hot stepper, so here we come. Right? Hey.
Match made in heaven, my dude.
That's what I'm talking about. Everybody who's with us on Twitch, I know we're off schedule a touch, but if you join us on Twitch, we really appreciate it. Everybody who's watching us on the YouTube, hit that thumbs up, subscribe, the notification button always helps. And if you're listening on any other podcast platform, do the same for us. Leave us a review. Tell us what you think. But of course, please visit us at OmniverseComics.Guide, where you'll have all of our podcast archives, our collector item specials, our reading orders, our creator interviews. We got a couple of good ones. You should check those out. And everything is there. So if you're looking for a crossover to read or some sort of event that happened in comics and you want to know all the details, well, our site is second to none when it comes to that shit. Right, Dave?
Maybe.
Maybe. So
we try.
Come visit us at OmniverseComics.Guide. I'm excited for today's episode. Before we get into our Peter David recommended reading, Dave, do we got a mailbag this week? I like when a little bird flies through and drops us a little something.
A little while ago, I was sent 4 issues of Huge Detective from Titan Comics, and I was hoping to drop them and do a little review. I didn't read them for a long time because I just had lots of other shiz to juggle, but I'm so glad I did. There's 2 issues remaining, and I don't know if it's going to continue after that, if there's going to be like a follow-up. But this is such a bizarre series. This is such a weird idea, where this is a land where there's not much of humanity left, and the giants rose up from beneath the surface and essentially took over the world. But there's been a murder. There's been a murder, and this giant and a human are teaming up as a detective odd couple to find out who's behind it and solve the crime. It's so much world building and such an oddball concept, and it really weirdly works. It's just this nice little atmospheric mini. So yeah, pick it up. It's Huge Detective, and I believe the trade paperback will be out towards the end of the year.
Nice. Awesome.
Issue
Very
1.
cool.
There's the front cover of issue 1. I think it's by Paul Pope.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Paul Pope.
Huge. Huge Detective.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
Yeah, cool. And thanks again for sending them in.
Omega Bread, of course, has a everyone loves it. Anyways, getting into this week's discussion, I'm excited to talk about it. We intended to do this a while ago.
Yeah.
So it is coming
that
across.
top 10.
Yes, we intended to do this top 10 for a minute, and I was the one who kept putting it off because I'm like, I need to read more Peter David to like properly do him justice. Because I know on your end, Dave, you could probably do all 10 for us and really just do it from your heart and off the top of your head, which is what I'm excited about for today. Because you really love Peter David.
I do love Peter David. I could probably do a top 10 Peter David Hulk solo, but I won't.
No,
we'll be a team.
Yes, we'll be a team. So, we've talked about Peter David countless times.
Yeah.
Whether it's an incoming Spider-Man related Hulk, whatever it is, his name comes up all the time. Deservedly so. He's extremely prolific, and critically acclaimed, and rightfully critically acclaimed. Like,
Yeah.
He's made quite the impact in his prolificacy. And
is that a word?
I think so.
Is
We're gonna
it?
make it.
I like that. I like the way you
Right?
made it sound. It sounded
Thank
like
you.
Pop-Tarts on your tongue.
So in everything that he's done, he's definitely left an indelible mark on those characters, whether he's been on the book for years or a little bit of time. And what was fun for me was reading a lot of things for the first time. I became a pretty hardcore Peter David fan, where I'm kind of like, I'll give anything a try if
Yeah.
he wrote it. I ended up buying the Aquaman omnibus, which I was on the fence for, because I got my Jeff Johns. That's my Aquaman, right?
Yeah.
But I like the fact that this is Peter David's Aquaman, and he had a tale that was a 5-year long tale.
Yeah.
And I trust him. At this point, it's a matter of trust. I don't care about the criticism. I trust him. So let's see what happens. I have a theme. Do you have a theme?
I have a theme, but I also have something to mention in the chat. It says Filtration 123. Love you, Cave of Solitude.
Love you too. Whoever's Filtration. I think I know who that is. I love you too, Filtration. Thank you. Thank you.
I've just got one about penetration, but I'm not going to read it out. It's just from Omega Bread.
Okay. What did Omega Bread say?
Nothing. That was a joke.
Oh, okay. Sorry. A new person in the chat threw me off completely. See what happens? Okay. Prolificacy from the word prolificate. Thank you, Omega Bread. I try. Hopefully, yeah. Dave, I want to ask you, because you put me on to a lot of Peter David stuff from your excitement for like the Hulk and all that stuff.
Yeah.
When was that moment for you where you're like, Peter David's my guy? Like,
it was
I
my
love
first
this writer.
choice for tonight.
Okay.
That was there. That was it. That's what sealed the deal. There were some moments before, but that was what sealed the deal.
Okay.
So yeah, I will go into that. So what was the moment for you? What was the character or title?
Definitely the Hulk. Just being like in the middle of Omnibus Volume 2 and then into like, oh, this is the moment I've been waiting for. It's in Volume 3.
Yeah.
But everything up to this point has been excellent. And
oh yeah.
I remember reading I don't know if it was inside of a trade of Visionaries or some article on the internet, how critical and almost like disdain John Byrne had for Peter David's Hulk. Like,
really?
He was openly critical. Like, he ruined the character, and we got to bring the Hulk back to what he's supposed to be. And I always felt like, okay, I guess there's like a mixed feeling about it.
Well,
but
weirdly, John Byrne then had a run after Peter David, and it's one of the worst Hulk runs I ever read.
there you go. So I'll trust what I read myself, and Peter David's Hulk is up there with one of the greatest runs in comic book history.
Great.
And I haven't
Wow.
finished it yet.
Wow.
It is.
High
It is
praise.
though.
Oh no, totally. It's incredibly deserving. Like it's It's one of the most rewarding reading experiences in comics, at least, that you will ever have, because of the way that he writes. He pays off and pays off. He will build up 2 years to a throwaway joke. He will literally build just to a punchline. Yeah. That's how dedicated he is to the way he writes and the way he builds everything. It's really smart. And it's not smug, and it's not dumbing it down. Even when he's taking the piss out of stuff, it's affectionate. Which is great.
Yes. And there's I'll get into it with some of my picks, and I'm sure you will too, but there is a value of, like, when you read one Peter David book and you keep like, if you read the Hulk and then you've read X Factor, it'll complement each other. He'll find a way to make it worth your while that you've read his stuff.
Yeah.
And very much so in Captain Marvel, his stuff in Captain Marvel. Like, if you read the Hulk, it completely helps you enjoy Captain Marvel even more, because you realize you're hanging out with Peter David's characters.
Yeah.
Same with Spider-Man 2099. Like, there's something about it. So take it away with your number one. I want to hear what your
I was going to let you start.
I know you were thinking. You want me to start? I could if you want. I think
Thumb War? Is it my turn? Well, now that I know that my last one isn't on your list, then I don't think it matters too much, does it? We should be all right.
We'll be fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're pretty good.
Okay. Right. I'm going to start with my favorite Peter David story of all time. And it's the kind of, normally you'd save that to last, but I want to open with it because I love it so much. And this was the moment that changed for me. So I'd read one of his comics in a special. It was a reprint, and it was that issue 340 where he fights Wolverine. But it was in a UK reprint, and they recolored him green. So I literally had no idea about how a bigger picture story was. I thought it was just, that's the story. But then picked up around the 350s, and there were some stories between then and this issue that I really loved. But this just took it up to another level, and it made me change my perception of how you can tell stories in superhero comics, and that it doesn't have to be the same standard fare all the time. Good guy versus bad guy. You know, there's a misunderstanding with a team up with someone else, and then, you know what I mean? It's like there are certain tropes and certain patterns you come to recognize. So this is Incredible Hulk 383 to 384. I was trying to think if I did mention it. I was going to mention it in the comics that changed top 10 life-changing comics episode that we did. But I didn't in the end for some reason. But it should have been in there. It's 2 issues that tie into the Infinity Gauntlet event, and as much as I love Infinity Gauntlet, these trump it for me. So in the story, it takes place around the Infinity Gauntlet. People start vanishing because of what's gone on with Thanos and what's now referred to as the Snap, and including Rick Jones. So Rick Jones vanishes, and he delivers a line which is something like, I can't die now, I've got a gig Thursday. And then he's gone. And Hulk's trying to figure out what's going on. Now, he thinks the Abomination is responsible because the Abomination is stalking this ballerina at this... I think she is a ballerina, but she's starring in a play, which is... Oh, God, it's the one about the dude that turns into a beetle. I had to do it in theatre studies. Metamorphosis? Anyway,
not sure.
So I think she's in this play because they're going to make Metamorphosis to be a reference to, like, change and hulking out and stuff, you know. So it's all these little metaphors in there. But Hulk thinks the Abomination is responsible, and just as he's about to catch up with him, when he kidnaps this woman, the Abomination kidnaps this woman, he's sucked through a portal. Now, my favourite issue is the second part of this. And in this, he comes out back into the sewers in New York City, but it's after he's been shrunk by Thanos. So the Hulk is super tiny, and the Abomination is walking around with this woman in his arms. And the story, even though there are a few punches thrown in it, this is a different Hulk. This isn't a Hulk who's like the mean and nasty grey Hulk. This isn't the savage, roaring, smashing everything green Hulk. You know, this isn't even Banner. So what he has to do, because he's super tiny, is figure a way to outsmart the Abomination. So he sits on his shoulder and pretends to be the voice of God. And I loved it. And the thing is, even though it might be a bit silly and there's a lot of suspension of disbelief in there, the best part for me is the closing line of the issue, which I'm not going to say what it is, but the line from that issue stuck with me for the rest of my life. after I read it. I reread that line over and over again. It's one of those things, the way he words it is just, it's beautiful. And it's like an emotional issue. It was for me. And I loved it. And that changed from, I mean, like the closest I had to that, I think, was that hero story in Fantastic Four that John Byrne drew, when like a comic can like hit you emotionally and you're not expecting it. But this was different. There was a sweetness to it. It's an unexpected sweetness to it. And then there's another little subtext to it as well that, again, I don't want to spoil, but it's just the characterization. And this is something that Peter David excelled at. He had those characters, and every character had a voice. They had their voice. You know, because as many characters as Chris Claremont wrote in the X-Men books, they all talked a bit weird in a very samey way. You shouldn't do that to a body. And like, no one talks like that. But yet all the X-Men say lines like that. What?
Right,
whereas
right.
Peter David's characters all sounded like they came from somewhere. They had a background. This is their accent. This is their... And not like in an exaggerated way, but, you know, they all had underlying history, or they'd mentioned something about what happened to them when they were a kid. He's got it all worked out. It feels like he's already worked out who everyone is and why they should connect with each other. And he made the Abomination and Hulk connect in a way they've never connected before and never have since. It was brilliant. And it's the art's by Dale Keown. So how can you go wrong? The issue looks great. It reads so incredibly well, and it's a surprisingly moving story. So that's my all-time favorite Peter David comic, and I'm opening with that. So it can only go down from there.
No, cool. I want to reread it now. Just that issue to see that. I know I've read it before because I've gone through that Omni, but it's a great run. And I noticed in stuff that I read, there'd be some pages where I'd be like reading the narration boxes, and it would be like the character giving his narration or giving us an explanation. And I was captivated by one of them. Like, wait a sec, who's talking here? Let me start over again,
Yeah.
because that happens a couple times where I'm like, as silly as it is, and as much as there's the joke and there's that tongue-in-cheek stuff that he gets really well, there are moments where he hits you with a little bit of like that feeling that JMD gives me. I'm like, wait a second. He takes it there in a way and he brings you right back. But this is sticking the landing because there's layers.
Yeah, exactly.
There's layers. You just have to, it's the way you're reading this, and you really got to stay with the ride. It's a worthwhile ride to just stick with a Peter David book.
Yeah, it
stick
completely
with it.
Pays off. Even then, like, sometimes you can pick up on those voices and you'll figure out who it is based on knowing how that character's beats work. But then sometimes you'll think you know, and he's throwing you off, and then he'll make that joke, and then he'll take it from the joke to this poignant line, and then he'll hit you with another joke and take you back to... It's just so good. And it makes the fights feel different. It's not just to punch them up to sell a book for 3 pages where people are doing that mispunching, you know. No one's hitting anyone. Yeah. You know, it's like there's something more behind it.
Yeah. There's payoff.
There's payoff and there's pathos.
Yeah. Good way to put it. And the other thing to keep in mind as we do these retrospectives sometimes is, like, in the 90s, when he is in full-fledged Incredible Hulk mode, he is also full-fledged Spider-Man 2099. And he's also writing Aquaman.
Yeah.
And they are epic stories that you got to keep organized in your head. And it's very easy to maybe become samey. There are a couple things that he does. I noticed Peter David has a few things that he does, but everyone's got their stuff. But to make those things stand out and be unique, it takes a lot of mental organization and discipline. And man, creativity. Unbelievable. Nice pick.
Thank you.
My first one. I'm going to go with a sequel to start. And when we did our Spider-Man in the 80s, you brought up the death of Jean DeWolf.
I did.
And that's...
I wish I'd saved it for this, but...
Yeah, I would have picked it for this one, but I think equally as interesting is the sequel to that, which was The Sin Eater. 3 issues. In issues 132 to 134. It's a 3-parter. It's all collected in... not a Marvel Masterwork, but with those Premiere collections. The Death of Jean DeWolf, it had that story, and then the sequel to it was collected in that hardcover or trade, however you had it. But he gets into the psyche of the Sin Eater and the cause and effect that Spider-Man's actions have on himself and on the people around him. And it's one of those things where Peter David, he'll tell a story, and when he returns to it, he finds a very clever way, not a hack way, but a very clever way to reintroduce that storyline again in a way that adds a layer that brings something home to the character. And what's cool about it is the first time around, when he tells the story of the death of Jean DeWolf, I don't think Spider-Man is with Mary Jane. I don't think they've been reunited yet. But by the time this story comes out, now they're married. Like, this is right around the time that Kraven's Last Hunt, pardon me, right around the time that Kraven's Last Hunt's about to take place, I think. So
this takes place just after Kraven's Last Hunt.
Yeah, so you've got all of this like angst in Spider-Man's life happening in and around the same time, and both of the writers who are tackling the character from a psychological point of view are doing the right things to them. So if you read Kraven's Last Hunt and then you read this Sin Eater story, like, it's some pretty heavy stuff, pretty heavy and heady stuff that Spider-Man's going through, and it's a worthwhile read. Definitely read Death of Jean DeWolf because it's a classic, but this one goes right up there with it. It's
Nice.
a worthwhile sequel.
Well, it's so just to confirm, you're right. It's Spectacular 134 to 136, and here's the thing for me is that I've never read those issues, so that would be a new Peter David thing, and that's what's great. He's written so much stuff that there's always something to find.
Yeah,
because I mean, around the mid 80s is when he started working on Spider-Man. I think his first issue was Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man 103, I think.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he did a couple of comics before that, like the Fumetti comic book and an issue of Marvel Age, apparently he worked on. But then his first proper comic writing gig was that Spider-Man issue. So he did, and he jumped from title to title a bit as well. He was jumping between Web, Amazing, and everything. So, like, he did his fair share of Spidey. And he wasn't known that well then. I mean, obviously he was brand new. So it's funny to think that he was kind of making a name for himself already at that point.
Yeah. And they stand the test of time. They really do. And they affected the character. It's also an Electro story. It's a pretty good Electro story as well.
Oh, cool.
So so it's kind of like the way that I'm always going to bring up his name. JMD did the Child Within after he reintroduces Vermin to tell this story post the Kraven's Last Hunt. And so in this way, it's the same sort of thing where it's the story of Electro, but also now we're dealing with the Sin Eater's psyche at that time. Like, it's a cross connecting story.
Okay.
I'll leave it. I don't want to spoil anything. If you haven't read it, I hope that this puts
cool.
it on your list to read.
I'm glad you mentioned. That's what's great about these things, isn't it? Being able to dig out these little hidden gems, dude. Little hidden gems.
Yeah, little hidden gems.
Oh, Omega Bread, by the way, says it was Kafka's Metamorphosis.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
I didn't see that earlier, but yeah, thank you. I couldn't think of Kafka's freaking name. I had to do that at theatre studies in the 90s, and I hated it.
Omega Bread, just in regards to this Sin Eater story, he shared with us that character has been so mismanaged ever since. Between Copycats and Resurrection, he's been completely watered down in comparison to PAD's initial depiction, which, that usually happens.
This is what happens a lot of times with mainstream comics. They some of them have been going on too long.
Yeah, and that's what the point of the show is that we can lead you to worthwhile stories to read that are now collected and available. So let's get into those. Dave, you got a number 2 for me?
I can do a number 2 for you, Doctor.
Thank you.
My number 2 tonight is a Wolverine story. It's not the Wolverine story from Incredible Hulk, though I'm not going to go into it, but in the best top 10 fight scenes, I did mention the Wolverine Hulk fight from issue 340 that I mentioned earlier. So go and listen to that so we're not sitting here repeating ourselves. This is from Marvel Comics Presents 85 to 92. The art is by Sam Keith. the storyline is blood hungry, although I swear they called it something else in a collector's edition at one point, like Bloody Choices or something, but it's blood hungry anyway. Now, this is a really weird one. Well, it's Sam Keith, so it's going to be weird. I think, if I've got this right in my head, they already worked together on issue something like 367, 368 of Incredible Hulk on a Mr. Hyde story. So, in a way, this is kind of a follow-up to, in terms of their working together, Peter David and Sam Keith. So Sam Keith's art, people might know him from the Max, from Image Comics. It's also been produced by a few other people, and there was an animated series at some point. His art is very exaggerated. It's very dark, atmospheric, kind of weirdly a bit sinister.
Nightmarish.
Very nightmarish, yeah. Funnily enough, he did was that by Peter David? No. Issue 100 actually featured a team-up story of Doctor Doom, Wolverine, and Ghost Rider versus Nightmare, and his art suited it to the ground, so it's a good call. Mm-hmm. But this is about an old foe of Wolverine's from the past that someone he just couldn't beat. And the thing is, as cliche as it sounds, it's supposed to. And I don't think when I was reading it at the time that I knew well enough to realise this. But reading it, there are some flashbacks, and they're so weird. Like Wolverine's driving around in a sausage, and then Cyber drives up next to him in an even bigger sausage. Like it's such an obvious metaphor. And I was going, these memories are a bit weird. Because I was what?
Peter David does include a lot more innuendos than an Omega bread. I'll tell you that much.
There'd be a fight there.
Yeah.
For the biggest piece of the sausage.
That's for sure.
But this whole thing is a parody of Wolverine stories. Basically, just everything you expect to see in a Wolverine story, it does it. So there's like him with Tiger. Clearly, there's shenanigans going on between them. You know what I'm talking about. And then Wolverine's got his foe returning from the past, and then Cyber, they do a size comparison thing with their claws because, of course, Cybers are only really small. But he's a much bigger guy, so it's like, it doesn't end up being the throwdown thing you expect it to be because it's a piss take. But
it's almost like Looney Tunes.
Yeah, it knows exactly what it's trying to do. It knows what it wants to be. It feels like a stupid cartoon that maybe even someone had parodied in something that wasn't a Marvel book, but they printed it. It's like, this is so weird. There is an incredible cover, and I can't remember off the top of my head. I will run it on here. I think it's Marvel Comics Presents 92, which almost looks like a variation of the Arthur Adams image of Wolverine running, the way he did that classic Wolverine kind of running to the camera. Sam Keith does his version, and his clothes are shredded, but they've all coiled. So they look like little telephone cable coils coming out, and it's just this wild looking thing. But what a bizarre story. I mean, I've listed it in top 5 Peter David stories of all time. Is it one of the greatest of all time, if I'm truly honest? No, but did I like reading it again? Yeah, I think I've read it about 4 times.
Recommended reads. You've seen all the top 10. You've seen all of the Peter David listed. We're not going to bore you with all the obvious ones.
We say
right?
top 10.
Yeah. It's our picks. Hair? Our recommended top 10. That's right. I like it. Pick the ones you love because you can talk about it honestly.
Yeah, exactly. So expect weirdness, expect darkness, expect just the biggest piss takery you're likely to see. But I mean, that's straight up Peter David's street, and it works so well with Sam Keith's art. So that's Marvel Comics Presents 85 to 92. I think it was around about 1991. So yeah, pretty old now, but still a good one. For a few laughs.
Nice. I like it. All right. I'm gonna head into. I'm gonna stick to the theme. People are gonna catch on pretty quick what the theme is. So my next pick is going to be from 1992. Peter David, an extended run as he was known for, but this is Spider-Man 2099. I'm not gonna say read the full run. That's cheating. But start off with issues 1 to 3. Start off with the origin of the character. It's a pretty ambitious thing. Like Peter David, I would say, had pretty ambitious ideas, and to make them work, you've really got to come with something that's going to make people say, "Hey, check that out!" Because at this time, there's so much Spider-Man available. Like, it's crazy how much Spider-Man is on the shelf, how much he's selling, and that's why they come out with this futuristic version of Spider-Man. How are you going to pull that off? Um, I have to say, and I'm not sure if it's his Star Trek being a Trekkie and
Mm.
having that experience writing Star Trek as well, but Peter David's concepts of the future are pretty good.
Yeah.
Like he's pretty balls on with a lot of things that hadn't really been established yet.
No, he's
We
probably
have
been a
different
bit
names.
too. Maybe it was a bit
Pardon?
later than we expected because some of it's happening now.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. He was a bit ahead of his time with kind of seeing where we go with stuff.
Hmm.
And as I'm reading Spider-Man 2099 and 2025, knowing that this is now, over 30-year-old comic,
You
there's a
can
lot
keep
of
track of
stuff
those
in it.
numbers.
There's a lot of stuff in it that makes it very contemporary, like you
Yeah.
said. What takes you out of it a little bit is just that this is 90s comics, the way it was presented, the way they were paneled and drawn, like that's what brings you back there. And some of these things have come out now that are in this book of like of the future.
Yeah.
They're just called different things. Instead of the internet, they call it, I forgot what he refers to it as, but I think it's like the nets.
Yeah.
It's not far off. Like you know exactly what they're talking about. A
Yeah.
surveillance state, having like a smartphone to guide you through your day with Lila. So I'm
Yeah.
talking all about the world of Miguel O'Hara.
Yes.
So I suggest these first three issues because it gives you it's very fast paced. It's breakneck speed. I don't know when the last time it was that you've read this, but it basically just shows
A couple of years
Spider-Man
ago.
2099 as far as you can tell because of the cover. You know
Yeah.
that's his name. He's on the run. He's a fugitive of some sort, and then you put the pieces together as to what it is that happened to him. Now, the longer you stick with this series, the payoffs are really, really big, and you get really invested in some of these characters that they don't, at this point in time, you don't care who Gabrielle O'Hara is. He's just this guy's brother. Big deal. There's no history to these guys. They're
No.
not connected to anything in the Marvel universe as we know it. So this is a clean slate. And there's ways that it ties in with stuff that happens in the regular 616. And it's such a fine tightrope walk that Peter David does with this Spider-Man book to make it all work. It's quite good.
Yeah.
It's very 90s,
Yeah.
very 90s.
But it was the ultimate universe before we had an ultimate universe. Like it was their chance to start
Exactly.
over and give readers weren't who were kind of worried about 30 years worth of history to catch up, only at that point 30 years worth of history to catch up on. It was their chance to something's talking to me. That's so weird.
Lila,
Lila.
right?
But yeah, it was their chance to give new readers a jumping on point because that was when it was the 90s boom. So
Yeah.
Spider-Man was the first new title. They had Doom, they had Ravage, Punisher, eventually X-Men, and then Hulk and 2099 Unlimited. Spider-Man 2099 is the book to stick with. Doom gets better and then it drops
Yeah.
off again. But for the most part, but the thing that I don't 100% know in terms of the world building bit, in fairness, is how much of it was Stan Lee and John Byrne, because originally it was going to be World of Tomorrow and it was being worked on by Byrne and Lee. And something happened, and it'd be interesting to know what happened, but it might be on Byrne Robotics. I don't know. I'll have a look. But yeah, something happened and then that project died, but it turned into the 2099 titles. So that's
Okay.
why the last series that wraps it all up was called 2099 World of Tomorrow, because originally it was supposed to be called World of Tomorrow.
Got you.
So yeah, I don't know how much it changed between there and then, but I think it seems most of the world building does seem to come from Peter David, I think.
Yeah. And I think the reason why I would tend to agree with you is the way that later on in other books he incorporates the world building of 2099. I started reading Spider-Man 2099 during the Spider-Verse event. And it was a really cool way what Dan Slott did of finding a way to bring back other versions of Spider-Man. Like there was crossover that he did in Superior Spider-Man with Spider-Man 2099 that allowed him to be used again by Peter David, which was really cool. And that series that started in 2014 and then continued on
Yeah.
was pretty fun stuff. I enjoyed it. The spin-off that came out of Spider-Verse, I liked Spider-Man 2099 from it.
Yeah.
He did something cool with the character, his character, and he found a way to make you invested in a character that had, I mean, he wrote 44 issues of that first volume. It's just his narrative, which is just gets better and better. I gotta say, it gets better and better. And it pays off in other anyways. It's issues 1 to 3. It's a cool little origin story. It doesn't have your typical Peter Parker tropes.
No.
It's its own thing. He's got his own legitimate spider powers, which is what I really like about it, is that Miguel O'Hara is his own guy. He respects the legacy of Spider-Man from the heroic age, as they refer to it. But
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
he is his own guy, which is cool.
Omega Bread says Peter David's world building was effortless. You were immersed in this futuristic society straight from the off, and it was all fleshed out without any heavy exposition. And he's right. And also, thank you, Marvel Man, for reminding me there was Fantastic Four 2099 and X Nation 2099. If you want to read these Spider-Man 2099 stuff mixed in with all the other titles and know how it all fits together with all those titles, then have a look at our 2099 reading order, 1992 to 1997, and that puts all of it together and highlights the stuff you need to read and highlight and unhighlightifies the stuff you can skip.
Yeah. Nice. See? Second to none. Yeah, I was in my Omni reading like later on in the run, and I said, I don't remember the origin. I got to go back and actually refresh my memory. And it almost reads better the second time.
Yeah, I agree.
It's weird.
I think it's not as, it doesn't have the same kind of vibe as Peter's, but I'm glad they did something that wasn't the same, because it sets the character up more, and he's kind of, I won't say what Omega Bread called him, but he's kind of a dick. Went for a different genitalia type there to what he said.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong, and that's part of like, is this guy? Do I really want to read about this guy? And you grow with the character.
Yeah, or you want to see just how far he's going to screw up in a very different way to the way Peter screws up.
Exactly. The ethos of Spider-Man is there, but it's its own character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, you're number 3.
I'm a little worried because there's something you said earlier that's making me think, did you choose this as well? Do I go ahead with it? Oh,
yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Sure? What if I rob one and it's the one? If I do, okay, I'll give it up to you and I'll do a different one from this book.
Go for it.
Sorry. Okay. At risk of stealing from you, my number 3 is Captain Marvel 27 to 30.
Continue.
Okay. So this is from Volume 4, as some people refer to it as of Captain Marvel. I didn't write down what year this came out. Oh, no.
Is it the crossover with Spider-Man 2099?
Yeah. Is that the one?
Yeah, it was next.
Oh,
that was
no.
Next on my list.
Do you want it?
That's okay. No. Please, I have an extra.
Oh, okay. I'll probably steal next. That's why I was going to let you go first.
No, to do it.
Okay. Well, we can both talk about it, as we clearly both read it. So feel free to chip in. So this is a 4-part story called Time Flies. The art's by Chris Cross with a fill-in by Chris Batista. It's issues 27 to 30. So it's a 4-parter. I wanted to include something from Captain Marvel because even though it doesn't reach the peaks of his Hulk run, of Peter David's Hulk run, it's still incredibly entertaining. The characters are so incredibly well-rounded. Plus, there are all these weird little mysteries that he likes to keep going on. Like, Marlowe can see someone who's dead. What's going on? There's, how does this all fit into Avengers Forever? Because there was at some point, Captain Marvel was on that team of Avengers in Avengers Forever, with all Avengers plucked from different timelines, and he was tied to an older Rick Jones. So how does it relate back? Was it an alternate universe version? No. If you do want to know where that fits in, by the way, read Captain Marvel number 21 of this series, so 6 issues earlier, and they literally deal with it within a few panels. At one point, Rick's been aged in issue 19, I think, rapidly aged, and then in issue 21, he sat down moaning about how old he now feels, and then he disappears for a sec. He's just sat on a chair, disappears, reappears, and Marlowe goes, "Where'd you go?" He goes, "Oh, some Avengers thing with Kang. Anyway, carry on." And it's like, boom, it's done.
I love it.
So
I love
and
it.
that's the thing. Like, even though that might seem really disrespectful to Kurt Busiek or the Avengers books or whatever, it's not, because it's like, how big a deal do you want us to make of it?
Right.
He's already got enough going on in his life. But yeah, so this is Time Flies. This is deep in to his first run of Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
It's a time travel story. Star Fox appears in the toilet in the comic shop that Marlowe runs, and he's somehow opened a portal through time in the toilet, and so Marlowe flushes it. Captain Marvel and Star Fox get sucked into the future through the toilet, and they meet Spider-Man 2099. And if that isn't enough, if you've read Spider-Man 2099, there are tons of references and payoffs, and there's a really big reveal. So
yes.
There was a long-standing mystery in Spider-Man.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, and it's a different
That's
title.
what I mean. Different
and
title.
Almost
pays
10
off.
years earlier, there's a character in that, and there was a big mystery as to who that character was. So there were two characters. Funnily enough, that links back again. So there was another character called Net Profit, and it turns out he's... Shall I spoil it? If you don't want to spoil it, just mute for 5 seconds. He's Justice from the New Universe, which Peter David used to write.
Right.
But also there's another character called Thanatos.
Thanatos.
And he appears, and they were trying to figure out who he was, or is he anybody of note? This storyline reveals who he is.
Because I was reading Time Flies purposely for this episode. I said, when the time comes, because what's genius about it, I'm so happy you mentioned it, doesn't matter as long as it's mentioned, is that it takes the Captain Marvel and the Rick Jones, so you got that Hulk history, and then the Maestro is involved.
I wasn't going to say who it was, but yes, if you're it doesn't matter.
It's a celebration of Peter David stories.
It completely is, because the thing is, it doesn't just involve the Maestro. You end up in, because they find Doom's time platform at Alchemax. So all these things are interlinking, and then you don't just get the Maestro. This leans heavily into Future Imperfect. So if you're a fan of Future Imperfect, you'll see a storyline that takes place before that storyline happens.
Yes.
So it's
I think
beautifully interlinked.
I think somewhere in this story, I could be wrong. No, it happens in my next pick. But he just finds a way of bringing it back together, that if you've read my books, this will all pay off, and it'll not be in a way where it's like, well, if you didn't read it, you just don't know about it. It'll still work.
Yeah.
But it just means more if you've been along for the ride.
Yeah.
That's how it should feel.
It's exactly how it should feel. And that, even if you haven't read Spidey 2099 or Hulk, this is still a really, really funny, genuinely funny and entertaining Captain Marvel storyline. I mean, as great as it is, don't start there. Go back to issue 0, read issue 0 upwards. And actually, if you do want to make 100% sense of it, read Avengers Forever first, because that's another series that it sets up the whole title.
That's what the fun part of comics is. It's the ride. It's the journey. It's not just the type of story. Some people want, I just want it like that dark story. I want a heady story. Go for the ride, and you'll get it all. The Peter David stories give you a little bit of, I didn't mention it, but in his one of my Peter David moments where I was like, wait a second, I got to pay more attention, was his X Factor issue with what's the doctor? It's Dr. Sampson.
Oh, yeah, Dr. Sampson, yeah.
When he talks to X Factor.
Yeah.
It's that one issue where he just talks to all of them, and I'm like, this is good stuff. And I'm like, Peter David, hey?
But there's no fights.
No fights, no action.
No fights at all.
But I'm completely invested in the rest of the book.
One of the best issues of the entire series.
Yeah.
Probably
completely
the best issue of the entire series.
Yeah. From there, I read all of Fatal Attractions, but that issue is near the beginning, and I'm like, this is good stuff.
Yeah.
If Peter David does all the X Factor issues, I'll be excited for his issues.
Oh,
it was that moment. Yeah.
No, that's brilliant.
Okay. Great pick. I'm happy you mentioned it.
Thank you.
Shall we go into the commercial break?
Let's do commercial break.
All right. All right. All right.
We don't do that anymore.
Dun, dun, dun. No, we got to do yeah. Dun, 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 dun. Okay.
Commercial break.
He's Doc Sasquatch now because, oh boy. I was just reading Doc Samson is
Oh,
now Doc Samson. Yeah.
yeah. I just
I
can't
don't
be
know about that.
bothered. I tried
PC, you're
Immortal
here.
Hulk,
All
but
right.
oh
I didn't
yeah,
notice he was here.
dude,
Welcome
hello.
to the show. Hello, hello, boom.
Oh,
We
there we
dropped an
go.
honorary boom for you.
Honorary
Or Omega
boom
Bread did.
from the
Yes,
bread.
Omega Bread.
Bread boom.
All right. Our
Okay.
commercial break. Go ahead.
So our commercial break this time around is dedicated to Peter David himself. Obviously, we recently lost the legendary writer. That's a phrase that's used a lot, but he genuinely is a legendary comic book writer. One of the greatest talents we've ever had. So much stuff to delve into. If you've not read any of his stuff, I'm going to do a top 5 that's going to help you find some Peter David stories. So these are our top 5 most read Omniverse Comics Guide Peter David related reading orders. Thank you.
Let's do it.
At number 5, we've got X Factor 2004 to 2013. That's X Factor Investigations. So that's the entire run on that title, all in chronological order. Number 4, Spider-Man 2099, the original 92 to 97 series. Again, that's broken down in order. If you don't want to read all the 2099 books and you just want to focus on Spidey, that's the reading order for you. At number 3, it's Hulk from 1993 to 98, which is actually part 2 of the Hulk Peter David reading order. Number 2, Spider-Man 1984 to 85, which includes a number of stories by Peter David. This isn't a solely Peter David reading order, though. Obviously, there's loads of creators involved in that one, but a lot of his stuff is in there. And at number 1, Hulk 1987 to 1992, which begins Peter David's run on Hulk. So it's the first half of his time on the Incredible Hulk. It takes it from those 10 slightly awkward issues with Todd McFarlane to that issue 340 with Wolverine versus Hulk, and then it just escalates from there. So if you do, I mean, I dropped a review of Hulk Visionaries on Amazon years ago, and I didn't give Volume 1 a particularly good review, but I said, look, you know, you've got to stick with it because it pays off. So he's finding his feet on the book, and I'm not going to tell you this is the best you'll read in Volume 1 because it's not, you know. So,
But it might be your favorite section because that's how good it is. Like I was thinking about it today. Like what's the best part of it? Like there's so many highlights throughout.
there are
Go
so
ahead,
many
I
highlights.
interrupted you.
But yeah, and I think it's one of those things though. Like if people read the first 5 issues of that, they might go, oh, "I'm not seeing what's the appeal of it is." So that's the thing. It's stick with it. You know, if you get the omnibus, stick with it, or if you find Visionaries or you're reading it on the Marvel app, whatever it is, stick with it. Those first issues are kind of fun. You get some really early McFarlane, you get really early Peter David, but it's worth staying with because once it really, really gets going, it's just going to take you with it. And there's so much there. But there's all sorts of little crossovers and annuals and stuff to slot in between the main series. So if you want to know how it all fits together, Hulk 87 to 92 and Hulk reading order 93 to 98 are the 2 that you need to work your way through.
Nice. Filtration, if you're watching or listening still, the Hulk series is a worthwhile universe to get into from Peter David.
Do it.
Yes, do it. That's for you. Okay. Number 3, shall we continue? Yes?
Yeah,
okay.
Go for it.
I am going to stick with the Spider-Man 2099 universe, but now I'm going to go to a crossover moment when he finally meets Spider-Man Peter Parker. And again, it is at it's a cool story. It's a one and done one shot. I think it was years in the making because I don't think they, what's the word? Like went to the well for this one. They didn't try to cash in on it right away. And it's collected in the Spider-Man 2099 Volume 1 Omni. Deep into the Omni, actually, almost near the end of it. But they say it came out around issue 38. So I think they put it around where it was released. But I think the story supposedly takes place earlier in Spider-Man 2099's history, something like that.
There's a way to find out, dude. Someone's done
How
a
can we
reading
find
order. Yeah.
Where can we find a reading order
You
for
can
that?
find it on OmniverseComics.Guide.
You don't say. You know why?
So,
Because we're second to none.
second to none.
Nice. So that would be helpful for me. I jumped ahead and I read it because I'm like, you know what? It's one of those special one shots
Yeah.
that if you know the characters enough, and it's a really cool story where he finds a way to make them switch places, live in each other's worlds, kind of see almost like from their perspectives what their viewpoints of the past or the future would be where they are in their lives
Yeah.
at that moment in time, which I think the easy trope of the Freaky Friday switch around is simple, but it's how does he make them function in those places? One person where they're like a legacy character,
Uh-huh.
almost, and in a society, the 2099 society, there's a lot of hero worship that takes place. It's important to note in that Nueva York, as they call it, there's a bunch of religions built around the Avenger characters.
Yeah.
Whereas in Spider-Man's Peter Parker's reality, as we know it, he's going through the clone saga, and he's kind of like, you know what? I think I would rather be stuck here if I could. The only reason to go back is for my wife, but this isn't such a bad deal for me because I won't have to deal with that shit back home.
Yeah.
So it's a cool juxtaposition of the characters. They do it in a really neat way. He does something in this story, introduces something that he brings back later,
Ah, yeah.
which is really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, Spider-Man 2099 meets Spider-Man. It is I guess, a very early precursor to what today is the Spider-Verse, because now these characters are in
That's a good
movies
point.
and there's a whole Spider-Man family with Spider-Gwen and Spider-Woman and Miguel and Miles and yada yada yada. It's like
Yeah.
a Batman family. But this was at the time there was Ben, Riley, Peter Parker, and Miguel O'Hara. So this was a cool Spider-Verse crossover in the 90s. Rick Leonardi on art, Al Williamson on the inks, and Peter David on the script. It's the original creative team for Spider-Man 2099. So it
Yeah.
was perfect.
You're right as well. That they did hold off. They did hold off. It wasn't. It didn't feel like a cash in. It didn't even feel like a desperate bid to make 2099 try and get some readership back. Because I think at that time they were starting to lose it. It just felt right. And when it's Peter David, it never really feels like a cash in, which may be why they got him to do Marvel versus DC. Inject some actual talent into it. No offense, Dan Jurgens. I don't mean anything against your writing there.
I don't know if
Genuinely.
he wrote it. I think it was Ron Mars who wrote it,
I think
right?
I think Dan Jurgens wrote 2 and Peter David wrote 2, but I could be wrong.
Okay. Yeah, I think you might be right. I know Jurgens did the artwork, and I know
maybe
Mars might have been writing it.
Was it?
I
Someone
think he
tell us
wrote.
in the chat because I've forgotten.
Yeah, tell us in the chat. I was gonna, you know why I
Dan Jurgens was
might,
art, yeah.
because I was gonna read that. I was gonna read Marvel vs.
Were
DC
you?
for this episode if Peter David had written the whole thing, and I'm like, he only wrote 2 issues.
Ron Mars. Omega Bread said Ron Mars and Pad on writing.
Yeah.
So you both were right. I totally forgot. I genuinely thought it was Dan Jurgens, but
I thought so too.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I'm
I
like,
thought about doing the same though and I thought again for the same reason. No, he did half of it, and also like, it's not one of my favorites.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, this one shot, I think it's if you like Spider-Man and you're a Peter David fan, it's a pretty safe bet that an omnibus from him is going to be up your alley. I feel like he's a pretty safe writer to bet on.
Yeah, completely. That you can also potentially still get it if you don't want to get the omnibus. I think you can get it in the Marvel Spider-Man 2099 versus Venom trade paperback. I think.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's in there.
Okay.
But if you're not sure about which collector editions you want, there's a little breakdown of collector editions on the Spider-Man 2099 reading order. Yeah.
Ooh, nice. Where can they find that?
That's OmniverseComics.Guide.
Nice. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Number
You're
4.
number 4. Yes.
Number 4 relates to my T-shirt. No Omega Bread. This is not me lactating really badly, as you suggested earlier. Thank you very much. I got this. I put this on a wish list. This T-shirt because I wanted a Madrox T-shirt because I love the character so much, but it wasn't what was advertised. So the picture had it looking like it does in the comics, where it's smaller and just appears up here. I don't like big print shirts, and it turned up like I look like what is this? But I bore it to death anyway because Madrox. So my choice number 4 is X Factor 39. I'm not going to show the cover when I put the graphics up. I'm going to show the cover to 38 because the cover's a bit of a spoiler. I'm also not going to talk too much about what happens in the issue. But this, for me, I think was the real tipping point for X Factor. And even though there have been some really good stories on this title when they relaunched. So it initially launched, there was Madrox 1 to 5, which was a Marvel Knights book by Peter David. And that then carried on into X Factor, which is Madrox running his own private investigations team. So it kind of felt like if Vertigo did an X-Men book, but with no swearing. To me, that's how it felt, because it wasn't following any of the other X-book style stuff. It wasn't the garish costumes, which had come back at this point. It was all very dimly lit PI stuff, but also very funny. So, but even then, there are some really nasty things that happen to the characters here and there, and they're really harsh things that happen to the characters. But by issue 39, there was a bit of a love triangle. There'd been a bit of a love triangle with 3 of the characters, and it culminates in issue 39 when there's a big change in the life of Siren, who's a long-running X-Men character. She's the daughter of Banshee. She's been around since late 70s, early 80s? I think early 80s, if I remember right, from Spider-Woman. Yeah, big change in their relationship and how that functions, and then something happens that literally had my mouth open. Just, it was awful. And I think, it's hard to say. I can't say that because it will spoil it too much. It's really hard to talk about, but it's one of those things that really hit. Because it's like, it's as simple as it is, even as an idea, but as simple as it is the thing that happens to the characters in this, it's awful. And it completely disrupts the team dynamic going forward for like the next year. So it's a complete change of direction for the book. Then a year later, it changes direction again. But this is the way he leans into an X book like X Factor is he leans into that change. The whole mutant thing is about change. And he really, really plays on this. And characters come and go, and the lineup changes all the time. But this sets things in motion for a year of X Factor that I really like, with all sorts of time travel stuff going on. But yeah, what a shocker X Factor 39 was. He actually released something at the time where he said, don't spoil this issue. Don't post the pages from it. Don't tell anyone what happened, because this will be a shocker. And no one did, because hardly anyone was reading the book. In the grand scheme of things, it didn't have those X-Men numbers. But I think that benefited in a way, because he could do what he wanted. When a book becomes too popular in the big two, I mean, you'll notice for me tonight, all my choices are Marvel, because his Marvel stuff was the stuff that impacted me the most. I've read some of his Aquaman. I've read a fair chunk of his Supergirl. Fair chunk again of Young Justice. Well, I wasn't that keen on Young Justice, but I didn't feel like it was written for me, which is fine,
Yeah.
But the Marvel stuff
felt
was
the same.
stuff that, it's blatantly written for a younger audience, isn't it?
Yeah.
So this, the best Peter David, when Peter David's at his best, it's when he's being left alone to do what he does. I mean, the reason he left Hulk in the end was because he was being told what he had to do, because the book was selling. But the book was selling because he was left alone, The more they left him alone, the better the book did. And then the better it did, the more they wouldn't leave him alone. So it was this vicious circle.
It's the short-sightedness of the end goal of we need to sell books.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's so hard to explain why Peter David's second run on X Factor is so good. Like, you don't have to like superheroes. You don't have to like comic books. If you start reading this, you're going to be engaged with the soap opera of the story. And he has a way, even with Spider-Man 2099, of suddenly making you invested in the soap opera of the characters and how they're all being persuaded and pulled and manipulated in different ways, that it's not just the main story of the superhero that you're caring about. It's like, I kind of want to know what's happening with them.
Yeah,
They're, well, we're here, then there's this plot line here, which makes you like doubly invested.
that's just it. You're glad every character's in the book, and if you
Yeah,
don't like them being in the book, there's a reason he wants you to not want them there.
exactly.
You know,
Yes.
there's a role for everyone in this. He knows what he's
Yes.
doing, and he knows what story he wants to tell. And the only thing that changes it is the interference, but he rolls with it. Because sometimes you
Yes.
gotta. Sometimes they're going to drag X Factor into an X-Men crossover event, but it doesn't last long. You know, so X Factor is great for that. For the most part, he's left alone. There's two
Yes.
things. I think it's Messiah Complex, which has X Factor involved a bit, and it does pay off later. So don't skip it. Definitely include it. See where it fits in the X Factor reading order that is on OmniverseComics.Guide. But yeah, then there's another one later on, and now for the life of me, I can't remember what it's called. Second Coming. That was it. But they're on the periphery of that,
Yeah. Yeah.
so you don't need to read the
No,
whole event. So it's
no, it's
worth
good.
sticking with. Great character work. Some of the
Really
art
is.
wasn't for me, but the writing is so good. I could last out an artist I wasn't a huge fan of
Yeah.
because the story
Yeah.
was
He
still there.
he has that. He's got that skill. You're
Yeah,
right. Even with his Hulk, he goes through a bunch of different artists
he
that
does. True.
their styles are different, but
Yeah,
just stick with it. Yeah.
you'll have your favorites, and it might
You'll
not
have your
not
favorite.
everyone's favorites will be the same.
I'm gonna cheat on this one.
Do it.
My number four. I'm gonna go with Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. That was issues number 5 to 23 is what he wrote. I really wanted to pick a 2-issue, 3-issue part of this, but it all blends together the way Peter David does. So I'm gonna go with the Back in Black. Peter David, Back in Black, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. But it's collected in a trade. I'm not sure if it's available anymore, but it was a complete collection that I regret not buying physical copy of because it's fun stuff. You've got, I think Ruringo does some art in it. Todd Knock does some art in
Yeah,
it.
that's right.
I think Scott Eaton. So it's well
Yes.
casted as far as the artists go, and he reintroduces some things that he shows us in the Spider-Man 2099 Spider-Man meeting each other crossover. He brings some of those characters back in a time travel, time disruptive, dimensional kind of story that sticks around throughout the narrative. Like it has a payoff. There's a character who returns in a very interesting way. I was almost gonna pick. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was the what if, somewhat of like a what if issue. I was gonna pick that one where it's if Aunt May had died instead of Uncle Ben,
He did a
and it
couple of
kind
those, yeah. He
he
did a
does
Hulk
he
one as well, where Thunderbolt Ross becomes the Hulk, and it's Peter David wrote that one as well. But
yeah,
it doesn't
and
relate to what you're saying, dude. Sorry.
no, that's okay. He does something like that, but he makes it mean something throughout the run,
Yes.
which is really cool. I don't want to give any of it away, but check it out. It's available digitally. It was coming out right around Spider-Man 3 with Tobey Maguire, where they were going to have him in the
Yeah.
black costume. So they found a way in the comics during the post-Civil War that he was kind of a fugitive wearing the black costume again, which I didn't mind the Peter David stuff. I don't remember
The JMS stuff
JMS's.
was good until One More Day.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So run, this collection ends with One More Day being the next thing. So it's almost like when I read
Just
it, I
stop
was like, this
there.
is almost, yeah, I'm like this is almost like the end of Spider-Man proper as we know
Yeah.
it.
It pretty much
Nothing
is.
was this, and going out with Peter David writing it had a charm. It was nice. It felt good.
Oh.
And the Sandman storyline, the one I'm referring to in the Spider-Man Back in Black,
Yeah.
he finds a way to make stuff that's very deep and dramatic, finds a way to make it funny. It's not necessarily gallows humor, but it has the Peter David charm, and he brings the whole story back together. It's a really cool Flash Thompson story as well. Like this
Oh,
book
yeah.
focuses a lot more on like Mary Jane and Aunt May aren't in it too much. It's more Betty Brant and Flash and what Peter's doing to kind of like stay alive during this fugitive era of his career,
Yeah.
where what is it? Not
And
the initiative, but the Civil War.
post Civil
They had to
War, it was the initiative, but it didn't. Yeah,
yeah
it didn't come under the banner of the initiative, but it was basically tied
yeah
to that.
where they had to, what did they call it? The heroes had to sign up. I forgot what the registrate
The
registrate. Yeah,
the Superhero Registration Act. Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
yeah. It's
All
it's
during
um
that time.
it's funny because those issues basically act as a postscript or wrap up the storyline that came from the other, which was the crossover event that launched the title Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. So it all kind of comes full circle in that title.
Yeah, yeah. It's a bit of a hidden gem that I would have used for another episode and another
Maybe
time,
next
but
time.
maybe next time that might be a hidden gem. Yes, the Luchador two-parter, just responding to
Oh, I
Omega
forgot
Bread.
about that
I
one.
was going to mention that, and I'm like, that's a hidden
Oh,
gem.
that's a good shout, man. I forgot
A good
about
one.
that storyline.
Yes. Yes, that's a great one. So check it out. If anyone can get their hands on a tactile copy, good for you. I don't know if it's in print anymore. They should bring it back out because it's good
I
stuff.
think we're going to see a lot of his stuff come back out in print.
It definitely should.
Yeah.
All right. Um,
Okay, I'm going to
go
wrap
for it.
up my 5.
Wrap up.
I couldn't not mention this. It's funny because I don't necessarily think it's one of my favorite stories from Incredible Hulk, but it's sort of like when I read it again and I've gone, oh, no, it's good. It's really good. So it's a two-parter. It does stand alone. It is Incredible Hulk Future Imperfect 1 to 2 from 1992. The lead-in to that storyline happens in, I've double checked it before we started, Incredible Hulk 415, which is 1994. So it happened, and then we didn't see where it happened for 2 years. It was 2 years before it slotted into the continuity. This is such a
That's so
classic.
cool.
Yeah, here you go. I've got George Perez doing it. Here you go, boom. They could have sat on that for 2 years and then launched it. So but anyway, they did what they did, and why not? So this was when the Professor Hulk, Smart Hulk, whatever you want to call him, was still relatively new. He'd only been around for about a year, and in this story, he is dragged to the future to deal with a threat to that timeline that only he can stop. And of course, who's it going to be? Himself. So Marvel does these great future stories, and they're at their best, I think, when they're not too overblown. Age of Apocalypse is the exception, I think, but when they're not too overblown, it works really well. Like Days of Future Past, two issue storyline, boom, gone, done. This is along those lines. I would put it up there. Future Imperfect is 2 double-sized issues, and it takes the Hulk into the future to face himself in the future. And bear in mind, like he doesn't age the same way everyone does when he's the Hulk. The Hulk doesn't deteriorate like humans do. He doesn't age like humans do. But what they show in this. Well, of course, it's got to be a dystopian future. What else? What's the other reason to bring the Hulk forward in time? Everything's doing well. Just thought we'd show you. Ta-da! No, they show him this room that an aging Rick Jones is in, sat in Professor X's chair, with all the remnants of all the helmets and weapons and stuff that are left of all the dead heroes. This is bleak, but because it's Peter David, there's little nuggets of levity. Plus, it's drawn by George Perez. I mean, it looks truly incredible. Incredible is perfect to sum it up. It looks fantastic. That's a different title. It's a great story, but I think one of the things that works so well about it, apart from introducing a whole new set of characters who end up playing a role further into Peter David's run, like Janice Jones, but it also, the way it resolves the problem is really clever. And it makes the ending so worth it. Like, the payoff is so good. So definitely, even if you read it on its own, you don't have to read the whole run to appreciate it. But if you do read the whole run, you really see how he's dealing with these characters. I mean, this has an impact on the Hulk's life. It plays a huge part in his paranoia in terms of
the Marvel universe.
It does, really. But I mean, in that point in time in Peter David's run, his biggest fear, I think it establishes really what the Hulk's biggest fear is, and it's himself. and this is a story that does it. So it's great stuff. By all means, read it on its own, but really treat yourself and read the entire Hulk Peter David run, because like I said at the beginning, I could do 10 of that, 10 stories from that run on my own quite easily.
Yeah, I could probably just pick Hulk. Instead, I just picked Spider-Man today because
Oh, why not?
you could really just do the Hulk run. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
It really is worth
Yeah.
all the hype. So I'm happy that you picked this one, because this was when we first started. I'm like, I want Future Perfect, called it, and you're like, fine, you can have it. So I'm happy that you listed it, because it just for the sake of comics, like well made, well written comics. When you get to that peak,
Yeah.
and someone's put something out there that's like, everyone needs to see this. If you're a comic book fan, take a look at this splash page. Take a look at this Marvel history.
Yeah.
Like, everything here is done with love and care for the reader, for the characters, for the people who worked on them. Like, this is what it's all about right here.
That's
And
just it.
nothing is the same after.
No, nothing's the same after. And it's great. There's so many references to the trophy room in the chat, including more filth from bread and reference to helmets. But
Of course.
there's so much to look at that even like
Yeah.
when I didn't, I was still learning stuff about the Marvel Universe at that time. So some of it, I didn't know what it was, but it made me want to delve. And that's, to me, mainstream comics at their best. Exactly like you say,
Yeah.
it makes you not just live in that moment and love that moment and seeing where it's going, but it makes you want to find out more about that whole universe that you're playing around in.
And that's what, when I said earlier in the episode, where I'm like, I'm a full-fledged fan, in the same way that I am for Mark Waid or for a Jeff Johns, is because they find a way to make you love all the other characters. They make you want to stick around. Like, I love this whole world that I'm in now because you've made it full.
Yeah.
Like, when you go from, I didn't finish my Hulk run, but I read the Captain Marvel after in Avengers Forever. I was gonna say Infinity War, Avengers Forever, and picking up those pieces and having the full omnibus is just like, what a wild ride.
Yeah.
But it's not so much the Avengers Forever. It's all the work he did with Marlowe and Rick Jones from The Incredible Hulk that really just pays off. You're like, I get it. I know why that matters.
Do you know
I
what?
know that drama.
The last thing I was going to say about Hulk before I let you do your fifth was I don't generally do fictional crushes because I just find it weird. But oh my God, did I have a fictional crush on Marlowe? Because I thought
She's a dirty girl. She's a dirty girl.
that wasn't necessarily the reason.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, she is a fun, fascinating character. And
You'll have
just
a fun
so
time
bold.
with Marlowe.
Oh my God, Marlowe's great. Yeah, and she's tall. And yeah, I just thought she was just so cool. I just love that character. But she's like a kind of secondary character. But she's not to me because he fleshes everyone out. It doesn't
Really
matter.
does.
He even fleshes out the guy who works behind the counter in the comic shop in Captain Marvel. Like,
Al.
everyone is real.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
My
The
memory
bachelor
is
party issue. Everyone say like Scrubs Marvel Man.
I don't see. Yeah. Is that from
Trunks.
the Captain Marvel?
That's
Is that
from Incredible
Captain Marvel?
Hulk 418, I think, for 17.
Yeah. I gotta reread that. But again, so I'm like, how did Peter David get away with saying this? Like, there was one moment in the Captain Marvel story where she was like, I prefer when my comics come in, and the guy's like, yeah, you just want someone to drop a load on you and just move on. It was like the dirtiest innuendo.
One of my
And I think she said it.
Does she? I can't remember. One of my favourite bits from that, though, is when there's a guy who opens a rival comic shop and his whole scheme is to try and get as many virgins together as he could. So he decides that's the best way to do it is to open a comic shop.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. Peter David, a lot of innuendos. Stay tuned. Okay, my number 5.
Hit us.
It is not going to be quite as epic as Future Imperfect, but nothing is, in fairness. Nothing is. It's a return to Spider-Man 2099 in the modern Marvel universe, where post Dan Slott's Superior Spider-Man run, he finds a way to have Miguel O'Hara stuck in, at that time, 2014. So the first four issues of the 2014 series, which runs for 12 issues, and then we get into the Secret Wars crossover, which is the one thing that plagued a lot of the books of that time, is that crossovers, of course. But these first
Yeah.
four issues set up Miguel O'Hara in New York of the modern times, with Peter Parker coming back and being in charge of Parker Industries.
Was that the second or like third series? So that volume 3, basically.
I think it's volume two.
Because I thought it was volume 1 was the 90s, volume 2 was the Spider-Verse era,
Yes,
and
this is the
then
Spider-Verse era.
oh, it is the Spider-Verse era. No worries, I just want
This
to make
is
sure
the
I get the right one.
Yes, this is the Spider-Verse era. So the first four issues, they don't get into the Spider-Verse storyline. After issue 5, it really pays off to read the Spider-Verse crossovers to see where you are
Yeah.
for Miguel's story to really make proper sense. If you just read it in this, it's a little disjointed. But the first four issues set up his world, set up the stakes, um, the characters that are in his life in this are now Peter's friends and people he's grown up with. His boss is Liz Allen. That is, am I getting it right?
Yeah.
So there's
Yeah, you're right.
there's a bunch of him being time displaced and working for a company that he would work for in the future with people who have a direct effect on his existence makes this really interesting. It's kind of like almost like a Marty McFly. I can't do too much, but I have to do something
It's
or
Marty
else.
McSpider.
Yeah, there you go. Miguel McFly. So, yeah, these first four issues are worth checking out. If you like them, you'll enjoy the rest of the ride. Stick around for the Spider-Verse whole crossover. I think that was a pretty well executed
Yes. Yeah.
crossover. Very daunting to try to do. But and then after that, we get into the Secret Wars, but the Secret Wars miniseries that Peter David works on focuses on some characters that he set up in the 2099, I think, original series that he worked on. And there's like some pretty cool payoff that he adds them into Miguel O'Hara's modern book, finds a way to do it.
Yeah.
So start here. This is a good starting point. That's why I listed these first four issues, and then take it from there, see where it goes. And I think right now, the volume 2 is, depending where you live, there's a pretty good deal online for it.
Okay.
So if you, yeah, worth checking out. And it collects, that Omni collects the Captain Marvel story that you mentioned. It's also in there.
Oh, right.
They
Okay.
include it. So they do a really good job of making the Spider-Man 2099 Omnis pretty complete.
They have done a really good job of, all in all, making sure everything is complete. But it's like with X Factor Volume 4, they didn't stop at the end of the X Factor Investigations run. They included that all new,
Yeah.
all different, all new X Factor, sorry. Those Avengers, X-Men Forever issues. And it's like with the, I imagine they're probably going to do a Spider-Man Peter David one. I reckon they will do it.
Might as well.
Because even like with Hulk, they did Volume 5, which just had all the other stuff, you know?
Yes.
And then they did a
Yes.
Maestro one with all the Maestro. So
Yes.
there were some repeats, but they seem to be, it felt like we were clamoring for Peter David stuff. We did episodes on this kind of like, why haven't they done any Peter David stuff? It seemed
And you know, it's
so
always
obvious.
unfortunate. It's so unfortunate they started doing it when he had health issues and money problems.
Yeah.
And it's like, you should have been celebrating this guy's work
Yeah.
for a long time because it is that good.
Yeah. That is a real shame. And
Yeah.
Marvel should have done better there.
Yeah, he deserved all the accolades and more.
Hmm.
But we get to celebrate him
We
now
do.
forever. We do. And keep people reading his stuff.
Yeah. We're still
Quintessential.
going to recommend Peter David stories. If there's plenty that we could potentially have included, but
I feel like we could do a part 2 next year very, very,
could do
very
one
easily.
next week.
Yeah, very, very easy. We could just do a feature on Peter David's Hulk run. It's 12 years worth of reading.
Yeah.
We'll have things to pick
Yeah. Oh, easily.
easily. So very good. Very nice. Rest in peace to Peter David. And rest in peace to Jim Shooter, who, as we record this, we just found out a couple days ago that he's no longer with us. And we were really, really privileged to have him on this show. It was one of like, we couldn't believe when it happened.
Yeah.
It turned out to be a really great conversation. We got good views and feedback on it, which is always great.
Some
But
people say it's the best Jim Shooter interview they've ever seen. So
Yeah, I'm not. I
mean,
don't know
I
about
think,
that,
but
but
he seemed really comfortable talking through his history, and he asked some great questions to delve into stuff. I mean, like you said, there were plans for a part two, but
yeah,
not to
we
be.
were trying. We were trying, but very, very happy that we've had him on. And if you haven't listened to that episode, check it out because he gives us some really cool stories, insights, and you know, it goes without saying he was controversial in comics, but he left an indelible mark for the better.
Yeah, he definitely had a positive effect. Even the stuff he did to support freelance creators and make sure they
Yeah,
had like health plans and stuff, a lot of which Marvel have since got rid of.
yeah,
So
yeah,
you can villainize Jim Shooter as much as you like. He did a lot of stuff that helped people.
yeah, exactly. There was a lot more that came of good because of what. Just look at the stuff that he was the editor in chief during a tenure. That's just like
The greatest decade
incredible.
for Marvel.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. So we're
Fight you
losing
in the
these
car park
titans.
if you don't agree.
Yeah, we're losing titans, but let's celebrate them
Yeah,
because their
exactly.
work is forever. Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, read some Peter David, everybody. Dave, as always, good to see you, my friend, and everybody on the Twitch. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next week, and we got some fun episodes coming your way.
Oh, we do. You little blighters.
OmniverseComics.Guide.
Dot
Don't forget
guide.
to check us out. Hit that rate and subscribe button if you're on YouTube or any other platform you're watching on. Thank you, everybody.